The breaking point. The artificial lights of Nexus Station pulsed with a pale blue glow that made Ambassador Sarah Chen's eyes ache after 18 straight hours of negotiations. She sat at the massive crystalline table, surrounded by representatives from 27 different spacefaring civilizations that comprised the Galactic Confederation. Despite the grandeur of the station, a marvel of engineering that orbited the neutral star Epsilon Eridani, the atmosphere in the chamber had grown increasingly hostile. For the final time, Ambassador Chen, Archspeaker Vorax said, his translucent exoskeleton glimmering as he gestured with 4 of his 6 limbs, "The Confederation requires full access to your quantum displacement drive schematics as a prerequisite for Earth's continued participation in these talks." Sarah maintained her composure, though exhaustion threatened to crack her diplomatic facade. For 3 years, Earth's delegation had endured the same circular discussions. The Confederation wanted Earth's revolutionary propulsion technology, the breakthrough that had catapulted humanity from newcomers to potential equals in less than a century, while offering little of substance in return. "And for the final time, Archspeaker," Sarah replied, her voice steady, "Earth will not surrender proprietary technology developed independently by our scientists, while receiving only vague promises of cultural integration and protection." She glanced at her datapad, where her team had calculated exactly how one-sided the proposed exchanges were. "Our analysis indicates that the technological exchange ratio would be approximately 17-1 in the Confederation's favor." Admiral Kizat of the Solarian Empire, a gaseous being contained within an ornate mechanical suit, emitted a series of pulses that his translator converted to speech. "Your species overestimates its position. For millennia, new races have contributed their innovations to the collective good of the Confederation. This is the path to acceptance." Sarah's deputy, Dr. Marcus Rivera, leaned toward her and whispered, "They're not budging." "Same strategy as always." She nodded slightly. The Confederation had successfully absorbed dozens of species using this exact approach. Praise the newcomers for their ingenuity, then systematically extract their technological advantages while integrating them at the lowest levels of the galactic hierarchy. Delegate Thera, one of the few allies humans had made among the Confederation species, attempted to intercede. The diminutive feathered Avarian raised her voice. "Perhaps we should consider Earth's counter-proposal for mutual defense." "That matter has been settled," interrupted Vorax sharply. "The human proposal lacks merit." Sarah watched as Thera's feathers flattened in submission. Even their supporters were ultimately beholden to the Confederation's ancient power structures. "Tell me, Archspeaker," Sarah said, setting down her stylus deliberately, "in the 1,000 years since the Draken civilization joined the Confederation and shared their gravity manipulation technology, how many Drakens have served on the High Council?" An uncomfortable silence fell across the chamber. Everyone knew the answer. "None," Sarah continued. "And the Mavorians, who provided the principles of your neural networks 3 centuries ago. Also none. In fact, our research indicates that no species admitted in the last 2,000 years has ever achieved representation on the Council. Is that correct?" Vorax's upper limbs twitched with irritation. "Council positions are awarded based on contribution to galactic stability. These matters are far beyond the understanding of a species barely a century into space exploration." Something shifted inside Sarah. 3 years of maintaining diplomatic restraint, of enduring condescension thinly veiled as mentorship, of watching Earth's genuine attempts at partnership dismissed. It all crystallized into a moment of perfect clarity. She stood slowly, her movement drawing every alien eye in the chamber. "Earth joined these negotiations in good faith," she said, her voice quiet yet somehow filling the vast room. "We believed in the Confederation's stated mission of mutual advancement, but we've come to understand that mutual means something very different to the Confederation than it does to humanity." Dr. Rivera looked up at her with wide eyes, recognizing what was coming. The military attaché, Colonel Zhang, subtly straightened in his seat, a hint of satisfaction in his expression. "Ambassador," Vorax warned, Consider your next words with extreme care. Sarah smiled for the first time in days. I have considered them, Archspeaker. For 3 years, I've considered them. Earth hereby formally withdraws from all integration negotiations with the Galactic Confederation. The chamber erupted. Some delegates rose from their seats, others activated communication devices, while several species capable of color changes shifted through spectrums of alarm and outrage. Admiral Kaizet's mechanical suit whirred as he moved forward. This is unprecedented. No civilization has rejected membership in 8,000 years. Then consider us honored to be the first, Sarah replied, gathering her materials. She nodded to her team, who began packing up their stations with practiced efficiency. Trade Minister Zol Kalax, whose species resembled towering mantises, clacked his mandibles in agitation. Ambassador Chen, surely this is a negotiating tactic. Your world cannot survive in isolation. The economic consequences alone are preferable to subordination. Sarah interrupted. Earth did not venture to the stars to become anyone's vassal state. As the human delegation prepared to leave, Vorax made one final attempt. Your people do not understand what you are doing, Ambassador. The void between stars is filled with dangers you cannot imagine. Without the Confederation's protection, we'll take our chances, Sarah said. She turned to face the entire assembly. Humanity has faced extinction-level events, survived nuclear standoffs, overcome plagues, and rebuilt from global wars. We clawed our way to the stars through sheer determination. If the price of Confederation protection is surrendering the very innovations that got us here, then we respectfully decline. The human delegation walked toward the exit, the sound of their footsteps echoing in the stunned silence. Just before leaving, Sarah turned once more. Our diplomatic channels will remain open for communications based on mutual respect and equal exchange. Until then, Earth will find its own path among the stars. The doors sealed behind them with a pneumatic hiss. In the hallway, Colonel Jiang finally allowed himself a smile. That was magnificent, Ambassador. It was necessary, Sarah replied, the weight of what she'd done settling on her shoulders. But the real work begins now. We have to prepare Earth for what comes next. News of Earth's unprecedented withdrawal from Confederation talks spread faster than light speed through quantum relay communications. Within days, the United Earth government convened an emergency session in the Grand Assembly Hall of New Geneva. Director General Quaim Osei stood at the center of the circular chamber, his expression grave as he addressed the gathered representatives of Earth's nations and colonies. Ambassador Chen has provided her full report, he announced, his deep voice resonating through the hall. After 3 years, the Confederation continues to demand our technologies, while offering little of substance in return. Our delegation has withdrawn from integration talks. The chamber buzzed with reactions, a mix of concern and approval. Admiral Helena Volkov, head of Earth's defense forces, stood from her seat. Director General, we must address security concerns immediately. I recommend activating our full defense grid and accelerating the ERA's initiative. And our colonies? Asked Representative Nakamura of the Mars Federation. What about our citizens living in mixed settlements on border worlds? Sarah Chen, who had just returned from Nexus Station, stepped forward. We've already issued alerts. Transport ships are being dispatched to offer return passage to any humans who wish to come home. And those who choose to stay, pressed Nakamura. They'll be provided with emergency beacons and communication equipment. Sarah replied. But we cannot guarantee their safety if the Confederation decides to make examples of them. Science Director Elijah Kamani projected a holographic display at the center of the chamber. While our diplomats were negotiating, my team has not been idle, he said with quiet confidence. We've made significant advances by studying Confederation technology from a distance. In several key areas, we've actually surpassed them. The room fell silent as Kamani manipulated the hologram, showing test results from Earth's hidden research facilities. The Confederation's technological development has stagnated, Kamani continued. They haven't truly innovated in centuries. They've simply absorbed advancements from new member species. Their propulsion designs follow the same principles established 3,000 years ago. Director General Osei studied the projection. So what are our options? Admiral Volkov stood again. Operation Closed Gates. We secure our borders, fortify our colonies, accelerate our mining operations in the asteroid belt and Jupiter's moons, and prepare for whatever comes next. Sarah shook her head. The Confederation won't attack us directly. It's not their style. They prefer economic isolation and indirect pressure. They'll cut us off from interstellar trade, deny us access to neutral ports, perhaps even blockade our system under the guise of quarantine. Then we find new partners, suggested Trade Commissioner Alvarez. There are independent systems and non-Confederation planets that might welcome human trade, especially if we can offer technological advances. Osei paced the chamber floor, weighing all arguments. Finally, he stopped and looked up at the assembled leaders. We implement a modified version of Closed Gates, he announced. We secure our territories and prepare our defenses, but we also reach outward. If the Confederation won't treat us as equals, we'll build our own network of alliances with others who share our values. He turned to face a massive window overlooking the Alps, snow-capped and eternal. Humanity didn't come this far to surrender its future to beings who see us as nothing more than a resource to exploit. If the Confederation won't accept us as partners, we'll show them what humanity can accomplish on its own. Over the next 3 months, Earth's response took shape. Military vessels took up defensive positions throughout the solar system. The Mars terraforming project accelerated dramatically. Mining operations in the asteroid belt doubled their output. Research facilities worked around the clock, freed from the need to hide breakthroughs from Confederation observers. Independent alien traders, sensing opportunity, began appearing at the edges of Earth's territory. Some brought technology to trade. Others sought human goods that had become surprisingly popular across parts of the galaxy. In her office overlooking Lake Geneva, Ambassador Chen reviewed reports from Earth's intelligence network. What she saw both concerned and encouraged her. The Confederation is struggling to respond, she told Director General Osei during their weekly briefing. They've never encountered a species that rejected membership. Their entire system presumes eventual compliance. And the economic impacts? Osei asked. Beginning to manifest. Several trading hubs are reporting shortages of Earth goods, everything from our art and entertainment to specialized minerals and compounds. It's small now, but growing. Osei nodded thoughtfully. And our technological development? Accelerating beyond our projections, Sarah replied, unable to hide her satisfaction. Without Confederation oversight restricting our research directions, we've made more progress in 3 months than in the previous 2 years. Then we stay the course, Osei decided. We continue to build, to innovate, to expand. And we wait. For what? Sarah asked. Osei smiled for the first time in weeks. For the moment when the Confederation realizes they need us more than we need them. The humbling of giants. 6 months after Earth's unprecedented withdrawal from the Confederation, the Grand Council chamber on Nexus Station hummed with anxious energy. What had begun as an inconvenience had grown into a crisis that could no longer be ignored. Archspeaker Vorax's exoskeleton had dulled from its usual luminescent sheen, a physical manifestation of the stress affecting the entire Confederation leadership. The massive holographic display dominating the center of the chamber projected economic data that told a disturbing story. The disruption spreads deeper with each passing cycle, reported Trade Minister Zol Kalax, gesturing to red indicators flashing across dozens of sectors. Human products filled specific niches that no other species was addressing. Their absence has created cascading supply failures across 17 major trading hubs. Admiral Kaizet's mechanical suit whirred with agitation. Economic concerns are secondary to security issues. Without human patrols along the outer trade routes, piracy has increased by 63%. Our forces are already stretched thin containing the Vrex expansion on the galactic rim. Vorax's upper limbs waved dismissively. Surely the mighty Confederation fleet can handle a few pirates without human assistance. It is not a question of capability, but of resources, Kizat replied coldly. The humans patrolled those routes as part of their integration process. Now we must divert vessels from other critical assignments to cover the gap. Delegate Thera, the Avarian who had once supported the humans, spread her feathers in a gesture of concern. There is another matter we must address. Several independent worlds that maintain trading relationships with Earth have begun forming a commercial alliance outside our influence. They call it the Free Exchange. A murmur spread through the chamber. The Confederation had maintained economic dominance across the galaxy for millennia. The emergence of a competing trade network represented an unprecedented challenge. How extensive is this free exchange? Vorax asked, the translator struggling to convey his tone. Thera projected a star map. 32 systems currently, with 11 more in negotiations to join, all focused around direct trade with Earth and its colonies. This cannot stand, hissed Zolkalax, his mandibles clicking rapidly. The humans are deliberately undermining Confederation authority. The humans are simply trading, countered Thera. They are doing what we refuse to allow them to do within our structure, engage as equals. Vorax turned to the Confederation's intelligence director, a shadowy figure known only as Observer. What have your agents learned about Earth's current capabilities? Observer moved forward, its amorphous form rippling beneath containment robes. Concerning developments, without our oversight restricting their research directions, human innovation has accelerated dramatically. They have established 17 new colonies in the past 6 months. Their fleet has nearly doubled in size. Most alarming, they have developed entirely new classes of ships, unlike anything in their previous designs. Are they preparing for war? Asked Kizat, the military implications immediately apparent. Unknown, Observer replied. But they are certainly preparing for independence. Our projections suggest that within another 6 months, they will have established sufficient infrastructure and alliances to render any Confederation pressure tactics ineffective. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. For the first time in thousands of years, the Confederation faced a force that had not only rejected their authority but was thriving without it. Vorax finally spoke, his voice uncharacteristically subdued. It seems we have miscalculated. Before anyone could respond, an urgent communication alert flashed across the chamber's displays. The message originated from the furthest reaches of Confederation space, along the border of the Vrex Dominion. Council members, reported the commander of the border outpost, her holographic form flickering with interference. Vrex forces have breached the Palos defensive line. 3 systems have already fallen. Their new phase shift technology renders our shield networks ineffective. We cannot hold them back. The council erupted into chaos. The Vrex, a predatory, hive-minded species, had been contained for centuries, but never defeated. If they had developed a way to overcome Confederation defenses, the entire galactic order was at risk. How did they develop such technology? Demanded Kizet. Our intelligence indicated they were at least decades away from phase shift capabilities. Observer's form rippled with distress. Unknown, but the timing suggests possible outside assistance. You suspect the humans? Asked Thera incredulously. I suspect opportunity, Observer replied. With our attention divided and resources stretched thin due to the human situation, others have seized the moment to advance their interests. Vorax's exoskeleton darkened further. We must reinforce the border immediately. Divert all available forces. We don't have sufficient forces to both secure the border and maintain order throughout Confederation space, Admiral Kizet stated bluntly. Not with the current distribution of resources. The implications hung in the air, unspoken but understood by all. The Confederation faced an existential threat, and their options were severely limited. After several moments of tense silence, Delegate Thera spoke. There is one potential solution, though I doubt many here will find it palatable. All eyes turned to the Avarian. The humans, she said simply. their new ships, their technology, if they could be persuaded to assist against the Vrex. Trade Minister Zol-Kalax's mandibles clicked in derision. The species that rejected us, why would they possibly come to our aid? Because unlike the Vrex, the humans don't seek conquest, Thera replied. They sought partnership, equal partnership. If we were to approach them not as supplicants to be absorbed, but as genuine allies. Vorax stared at the holographic display of spreading Vrex incursions. Pride warred with pragmatism in his ancient mind. Prepare a diplomatic vessel, he finally ordered. I will personally lead a delegation to Earth. On Earth, in the headquarters of the United Earth Defense Force, Admiral Helena Volkov studied tactical displays with growing concern. Intelligence reports from the galactic frontier painted a troubling picture. The Vrex expansion is accelerating, she told the assembled Leadership Council. 3 Confederation systems overrun in the past week alone. Their new phase-shifting technology is rendering traditional defenses obsolete. Director General Osoi frowned. Do we have confirmation on the technology specifics? Science Director Khamenei nodded. Our intelligence network has provided partial schematics. It's ingenious, if brutal. They've essentially weaponized the principles behind our quantum displacement drive, using it to phase their ships partially out of normal spacetime, allowing them to bypass shields and physical barriers. How did they develop this? Asked Sarah Chen, who had transitioned from ambassador to Earth's director of extraterrestrial relations. Unknown, Khamenei replied. But given the technological principles involved, we believe they may have somehow acquired fragments of our propulsion research, possibly from data stolen during our early interactions with the Confederation. Osi's expression darkened. And if the Vrex overrun the Confederation? Admiral Volkov didn't hesitate. Then eventually, they'll come for us. The Vrex don't negotiate or coexist. They consume. Sarah studied the tactical projections. How long before they become a direct threat to Earth? At current expansion rates, between 18 and 24 months, Volkov answered, unless they're stopped. A tense silence fell over the chamber. Earth had successfully charted its independent course, establishing new trade routes and alliances, accelerating technological development beyond all projections. But the Vrex threat had not been part of their calculations. We have options, Admiral Volkov finally said. Our new Prometheus-class vessels incorporate defensive systems specifically designed to counter phase-shift attacks. The prototypes have performed exceptionally well in trials. How many combat-ready vessels do we have? Asked OC. 7, with 12 more under construction. Sarah leaned forward. Not enough to turn the tide if the Confederation falls. Before anyone could respond, a communication officer rushed into the chamber. Director General, we've received an urgent transmission from Nexus Station. A Confederation diplomatic vessel has entered the solar system, requesting permission to approach Earth. Archspeaker Vorax himself leads the delegation. The room fell silent as the implications registered. The proud, ancient leader of the Confederation, coming to Earth in person, it was unprecedented. A thin smile spread across Director General Osei's face. It seems the moment you predicted has arrived. Ambassador Chen, the Confederation needs us more than we need them. What are your orders, sir? Asked the communications officer. Osei exchanged looks with his leadership team. Grant them approach clearance. Let's hear what the mighty Confederation has to say when they come as suppliants rather than overlords. The meeting took place not on Nexus Station, but in the Grand Assembly Hall of New Geneva. The symbolism was lost on no one. The Confederation representatives had come to Earth, not the other way around. Archspeaker Vorax, accompanied by Admiral Kizet and Trade Minister Zol-Kalax, entered the hall with as much dignity as they could muster. Yet there was no disguising the humbling nature of their visit. Director General Osei welcomed them with formal courtesy, but made no effort to hide Earth's strength. Holographic displays showed the planet's thriving colonies, its growing fleet, its new trade alliances with independent systems. We appreciate your willingness to receive us, Vorax began, his translator conveying a tone far more conciliatory than any human had ever heard from him. The Confederation faces an unprecedented crisis. The Vrex. Osei nodded. We're aware of their expansion and their new phase shift technology. Vorax's upper limbs twitched in surprise. Your intelligence networks are more extensive than we realized. We've been busy these past 6 months. Sarah Chen replied with a hint of satisfaction. Not just hiding behind our borders, as you might have expected. Admiral Kizet moved forward. Then you understand the threat they pose, not just to the Confederation, but eventually to Earth as well. Admiral Volkov nodded. We've run the projections. If the Confederation falls, the Vrex will eventually reach Earth space. The question is, what exactly are you proposing? An alliance, Vorax said simply. Not integration, not absorption. A true alliance between Earth and the Confederation against a common enemy. Sarah nearly laughed at the irony. Exactly what we proposed 3 years ago, and were repeatedly told was impossible. Zol-Kalax's mandibles clicked nervously. Circumstances have changed. Indeed they have, Osei agreed. Earth is now in a position of strength, with technology specifically capable of countering the Vrex threat. Vorax's exoskeleton pulsed with what might have been hope. You have developed countermeasures to phase shift technology. Science Director Kamani stepped forward. Our Prometheus-class vessels incorporate quantum lock shield harmonics that can detect and neutralize phase-shifted matter. In simulations, they've proven 92% effective. This is extraordinary, Admiral Kizet said, his translator unable to fully convey his astonishment. Such technology would turn the tide of the conflict. Yes, Osei agreed. It would. The question is, what does Earth receive in this alliance? Vorax seemed taken aback. The preservation of galactic stability is in everyone's interest, Sarah interrupted. We're talking about specific terms, equal terms. Understanding dawned in Vorax's ancient eyes. The humans weren't simply going to save the Confederation out of goodwill. They wanted what they had always wanted, recognition as equals. What are your terms? He asked. Osei activated a holographic display showing a formal treaty document. Full membership for Earth on the Confederation High Council. Equal access to all Confederation technology databases. Recognition of all human colonies and trade agreements. Joint defense protocols that respect command autonomy. Zol-Kalax's mandibles clicked in agitation. These demands are without precedent. No species has ever joined the Council without centuries of integration. No species has ever saved the Confederation from extinction. Admiral Volkov replied evenly. Vorax stared at the document, centuries of tradition warring with the reality of the Confederation's desperate situation. The Council will never approve such terms, he said finally, but his tone lacked conviction. Sarah smiled. They will when they understand the alternative. Our intelligence suggests the Vrex will reach the Chaldean system within 2 weeks. Once they control the quantum relay there, they'll have direct access to the core worlds. The revelation hit the Confederation representatives like a physical blow. Their own intelligence hadn't projected such rapid advancement. How many vessels can you commit to the defense? Admiral Kizet asked, abandoning pretense. 7 Prometheus-class ships immediately, with specialized weapon systems and tactical support, Admiral Volkov replied. Enough to halt the Vrex advance and protect the Chaldean relay while Confederation forces regroup. Vorax looked from the treaty document to his fellow representatives, then back to the Earth leadership. For millennia, the Confederation had absorbed new species, harvesting their innovations while keeping them subordinate. Now, facing extinction, they were forced to recognize a fundamental truth. True strength came not from domination, but from partnership. I will sign as representative of the Confederation, he said finally, and I will personally advocate for full ratification by the Council. Director General Osei nodded, offering the stylus. Then let us begin a new chapter in galactic history, not as masters and servants, but as equals. As Vorax signed the document, Sarah Chen thought back to that moment 6 months ago, when she had walked out of the negotiations on Nexus Station. She had wondered then if they had made the greatest mistake in human history or its greatest declaration of independence. Now she knew it had been neither. It had been the first step toward humanity's true place among the stars, not as supplicants or conquerors, but as partners. 3 days later, human Prometheus-class vessels joined the battle at the Chaldean system. Their quantum lock shields neutralized the Vrek's phase shift advantage, allowing Confederation forces to regroup and counterattack. What had seemed like the beginning of the end became instead the start of something new. A galactic order where Earth stood proudly as an equal member of the greater community of worlds. And across the stars, species that had long chafed under Confederation domination looked to Earth with new hope, seeing for the first time that there could be a different path forward, one based on mutual respect rather than submission and absorption. The galaxy would never be the same again.